Hi everyone, welcome to my May TBR where we'll be playing my TBR game, TBR Pursuit. I'm Robin if you're new here, otherwise known as Hobbit's Reading List. I play a riff on Trivial Pursuit using my Lord of the Rings game board because I'm a hobbit. And I'm really excited to do May's TBR because I have finished all the books for my April TBR, so technically I get a reward, which is usually just to go book shopping. So we'll probably end up doing that, although I go book shopping a lot anyway, so whether or not I've earned it, but it's fine. We don't dwell on that. But the bonus is that it means I don't have a consequence book. I had a consequence book in April, which was reading Something Wicked This Way Comes, which I did. So I'm excited to just play the game and, you know, not have to worry about like a consequence book, not have to worry about, you know, avoiding a roll again, which adds a book, because I can just roll my typical 7, and if I get more, then I get more. It's fine. It's whatever. So a quick rundown. So there are 7 categories, and if you look at the board, whoop, it's a big circle, right? And it has the spokes. So each headquarter space, which is the bigger space at the end of a spoke, represents Miscellaneous, which is all the other categories of books that I have on my shelves that I haven't read yet that don't fall into the 6 main categories that I read. And the 6 main ones are, and I'm going to try to remember this off the top of my head: psychology, Jewish, LGBT, romance, classics, fantasy. Aha, I got it. It only took me a second. So I do 7 rolls, and depending on what category I land on, I will draw a prompt from my prompt box. I have shuffled them already, but I haven't looked at them, so it's going to be a complete surprise. And I'm really excited to play just because, like, I love playing the game because I'm like, ooh, what am I going to get to read? And then immediately after I pick out all the books, I want to play again because I want to play on the next one. Like finding out what I'm going, or finding out, like it's a surprise. Figuring out what I'm going to read is very exciting to me, but it would not be exciting if I just played and didn't actually read the books. So let's go ahead and just like do the rolls. 3. So I said this last month. I like the first roll because I can pretty much go any direction that I want to, depending on my mood. Okay, I'm kind of feeling a Jewish book, so I'm gonna go for green. And I'm just gonna pick out the first green card that I see, which is the second one, apparently. Okay, this is a Jewish book that is a hardback. So for a Jewish book that is a hardback, I went with a book that was personally recommended to me by the company Tailored Book Recommendations. This isn't an ad, I've just been using them for a year and I really like them. And so I picked Shmutz by Felicia Berliner. So this is about an 18-year-old ultra-Orthodox woman, and her, I don't know if it's a full-blown addiction, but her growing interest in online pornography and how it impacts the rest of her life. So I think I'm going to really like this. I've seen really good reviews of it, so 1. Alright. So it's either classics, which is red, or LGBT, which is blue. And yeah, I'm gonna go LGBT. Okay, an LGBT book with a holiday. I don't have anything immediately springing to mind, so let's see what I picked out. For an LGBT book with a holiday, I went with the other recommendations from TBR, which is How to Excavate a Heart by Jake Maia Arlow. And this is about a woman who sort of crashes into another woman around Christmas. I know it's set on Christmas Eve throughout, like, part of it. I think they get, like, snowed in together. And I've seen really good things about this one, too. I was actually denied an arc of this. And so when it was recommended to me, I was like, okay. But this also has some Jewish themes as well, so that's exciting. Okay, 5. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Or, I guess I can go green or blue, green or blue. I already have one of each. So if I went backwards, 4, and then it would just be any one of these. You know what? Let's do a fantasy. I like having some diversity. Okay, this is a fantasy that's first in a series. I have a book that immediately came to mind, but we'll see if I pick that one or if it will be a different book. For fantasy that is first in a series, I went with Neon Gods by Katee Robert. I just got this last week because some friends of mine really enjoyed it. And even though I've seen mixed reviews on it, I wanted to be able to participate in a conversation with them. So this is a Hades and Persephone retelling, where it's set in modern times. I believe there's no, like, magic or anything, and it's supposed to be pretty spicy. 2. Okay, so brown is psychology. Or I could go back across the... I guess I should do psychology, because I didn't read a psychology book last month. Not officially. I finished The Body Keeps the Score, like, mid-April, but that was from my March TBR. So, I guess I'll go ahead and do that. Oh, this is gonna be hard. This is a psychology book that is a friend recommendation. That's gonna be... I don't know why I put that prompt for this category. Okay, we'll see what I end up with this. For a psychology book that is a friend rec, I don't know why I have this category, because it makes it really hard. Because a lot of my friends who have read psychology books have not read the same psychology books that I have, or even have interest in them. So I had to ask my dad, and he picked Girl Interrupted by Susanna Kaysen. He's fairly certain he's read it. He's definitely watched the movie, and so he recommended that I read it. I've watched parts of the movie. It's about a girl who went to a residential facility and her experience. So I think it should be pretty interesting. 5. I feel like I just did this. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Roll again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Roll again. 1, 2, 3. Or I could go in the second. You know what? I'm going to make it a little bit exciting. I'm going to go ahead and go for a roll again. So that means that I will read 8 books this month. So I go ahead and do the other roll. 4, which is romance. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just roll again. 1, 2, 3, 4, which is romance. So romance or read again. Roll again. Okay, this is an audiobook. That should be pretty doable, considering, like, I listen to half my books on audio. So, alright. For a romance that is also an audiobook, I went with Glitterland by Alexis Hall. It is about an author who's struggling and is, like, I'm pretty sure, like, going through depression. And he ends up meeting this guy who's, like, the exact opposite of him. I believe it's Pretty Grumpy Sunshine. And yeah, they fall in love. Like, I don't know anything else beyond that. I'm very romance heavy so far, so. Okay, so I can either do, this is Miscellaneous, or roll again. Let's go ahead and do Miscellaneous, because I don't have one yet. and those ones are usually pretty fun. Okay. It's published and or set before 1999. Interesting. So for a book that is published and or set before 1999, I went with High Fidelity by Nick Hornby. I'm fairly certain this is also set in the 90s, but I know it was published in 1995. It's about this guy named Rob. He owns a record store that is apparently like semi-failing. He just got out of a relationship, and I think he's just trying to like find love again, but also just figure out like what does it mean to be in your 30s, which I can relate to. So I've always heard good things about this book, but I haven't read it yet, so I'm very excited to have it on my list. 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Roll again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Roll again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Classics. Filming, so I'll go ahead and go for classics because I don't have one yet. I think I officially have all of the categories now. Okay, so a classic with a war or battled featured. Okay. For a classic that has a war or battle featured, I had asked my dad about it because I haven't, obviously if it's on my list, I haven't read it yet, and so I don't know if there's a battle in it, and the summaries weren't giving me anything. So he's read more classics than I have, and he helped me narrow it down to Bluebeard by Vonnegut, which is also one of my dad's favorite books, which I thought was really funny. And he said that it's Vonnegut, so of course it's going to touch on war, it's going to touch on satire. He says that there are flashbacks to the war. But I'm really excited to read another Vonnegut. I haven't read one since I read Slaughterhouse-Five. I don't even, like 4 years ago, maybe, probably more than that, quite honestly. So, very excited to pick Vonnegut up again. Okay, so now for our bonus roll. 3. 1, 2, 3. Fantasy. Or 1, 2, 3, which is the second ring. Let's do fantasy. Okay, and this one is a fantasy that is a hardback. So that shouldn't be that hard. And for the last book that I have on the game is a fantasy that is a hardback, and I picked up Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. You know I can't resist TJ Klune. And I only have a couple fantasy books that were hardback, and it was very close, but I love Klune. So this is about a guy who recently died. He's taken to this like in-between place and given a week to essentially live the life that he didn't before he has to cross over. I know that there's also romance themes. I don't know if it's a full-blown romance, so I'm really excited about this, but I'm also sort of dreading it because I think it might be a little triggering about my own issues about loss. Because I did lose someone very important to me a couple years ago, and so reading about death and loss does sort of like obviously upset me a bit, but I think this will be fine. So those are my 8 books for Trivial Pursuit, TBR Pursuit. I also will be reading the Inimitable Jeeves because of the podcast episode that my dad and I will be recording for that. So it's 9 books total, which is actually what I also had last month. So it shouldn't be that bad, and none of them are like too like devastatingly long. So yay! If you've read any of these books or want to read any of these books, comment, tell me about it. I'd love to talk to people. Like the video, subscribe, and check in tomorrow's video for the vlog of what I read in the last week of April. And then check back next week for me starting my May books. Bye!